Urukumuguruma utaite zvauri kuda iwewe. You see, I didn't want to get there.
I know how this video is gonna start.
They call me childish. They call me the Holy Ghost, Son of the Most Father. They don't know me.
No, good. Like our anonymous Kaurimo, like.
Kaurimo, like.
Name dropping.
Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tash, aka ZIMbarbieAN, and this is a safe space on the internet where we like to converse about different topics. Before we go anywhere, pen my t-shirts at Shopify. All of these t-shirts are available for sale, $12 a piece. Anzi, are too cheap. Anzi, your only demographic one vezanu. Saga, man vezanu. Can I discount at Shopify?
Nah, for you $15. But you might change the take my t-shirt.
Take my t-shirt.
Always allowance.
Anyway, so before we go to usually say it.
Wild.
Before we go too far, I'm gonna start with introductions, and I'll start with yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Tari. I am a startup champion and a clinical scientist by night.
Incredible.
And yourself?
My name is Dennis Shok. I'm a YouTuber. You're gonna find a comment. Right, the first comment in the videos will be a link to my channel. You can go and check that out. Some incredible interviews happening out there.
Shout out. And yourself?
Alright, everywherrrrr, Mofu, Jude Lutiro. I'm a YouTuber, filmmaker, and a lot of other things.
The second comment.
Yeah, link in the comments. You find me there.
And yourself?
Hi guys, I'm TJ.
All right. So
No, I'm making a comment.
the topic for today is age gaps in relationships. I'm gonna start with Tari. First and foremost, is age just a number?
It depends.
Justification can be.
No, it is not.
How not?
Because I think
It's a lot.
it's just not. Like, because we all at different ages, you are at different spaces within your life. You have different experiences, different maturity levels.
Right.
As you grow older, it's not to say. Yeah, I think the older you are, the more you know, the wiser you are, and
right.
vice versa if you're younger. I think, and so that way, it's not just a number.
TJ.
Yeah.
Is age just a number?
No. So broadly, I would say no. Like, it's important, but I also do think that it depends on the individual as well. Like, I think there's an individual aspect to it, because there are some people who, whether you're male or female, mature slightly faster than others, and so, like, whether it's your brain development, your upbringing, whatever it is, you can actually, whether again you're male or female, be with someone or like get along better with someone who's older than someone that is the same age as you or younger than you.
Jude.
Yeah, no, I think age, it's not just a number. I mean, it's significant. It speaks to maturity. It speaks to experiences, like she rightfully put. Because yes, no mature faster and things like that, but we can't make the exception the rule. Yeah, because remember, in a relationship, someone has to look up to someone, and obviously you look up to someone who's older, wiser, and things like that. So it's very significant.
I'll come back to in a relationship, someone has to look up to someone later, but Dennis?
So, I have a theory.
Here we go.
So, no, age is not just a number, and I think what we are skirting around here is you have to be able to tell people what that number is, right? Because if you're going to say, okay, no, there's an exception, this person is mature, then whenever you come to me and you tell me about this situation, I'm going to tell you that no, this girl was mature, right? And then now it becomes blurry because we're determining what maturity is. However, fortunately for you guys, I have a formula. I have a formula that you can use. So the formula goes this way. It's half the guy's age plus 8. That's the maximum age difference that should ever exist. So for instance, if you're 20 years old, half your age is 10 plus 8 is 18. So if you're 20, the youngest person that you should be dating is 18.
She's in diapers.
Is 18.
Or she's 18.
18.
All right.
Okay, so 20 and 18.
Yeah, 20 and 18. It works. If you're 30, it becomes 15 plus 8, which is around 23. Right. If you're 40, it becomes 20 plus 8, which is 28. So basically...
That doesn't work.
No, 40 and 28 absolutely works. And 40 and 26 doesn't. It almost always works in and around that line. And it will work at every age, all the way up to 100.
Wait, what? I want to.
First of all, don't question. This is a theory, not like one of these.
Because
just say yes.
Yeah. 20, when 2-year difference, also queer. I mean, it's when they're 30. Yeah, the difference actually in their
no, they're broken up.
You see, so it doesn't work.
No, it works. It works. You're gonna date people, right? And
for the year.
The 20-year-old and 18-year-old that are dating are going to break up.
When I'm
so 30, it doesn't even matter.
When I'm 30.
Yeah.
When you're old. 23. I did, yeah. But when we got together, I was 20. She was 18.
No. Wait.
She doesn't have to be that age. That's the minimum.
That's
so it's there.
I'm attacking this concept. It always works around those.
It works.
It does.
So I'm saying it's a moving. There are a lot of moving parts because as you grow older, the difference is
no. But you don't get a new wife every time your wife becomes too old for you. Right?
But what I'm saying, what I'm saying, your theory does not work.
No, but it does, right? So here's the thing. If we meet and I am 30, at the time that I'm 30 and you're 23 or whatever, it's working at that point. When I'm now 50, you'll be 43.
Yeah.
And that's also fine.
This is where I'm saying, at 20 and 18, there's 2 years.
Bro, those aren't real relationships.
Wait. There's 2 years difference. Right. So the difference in experience and maturity is not so much.
Yeah.
Right? It's not. So we're saying it's not good for a relationship. But
wait.
The difference between an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old. Honestly, in terms of experience, a kid who's in high school and a kid who's at uni. You're lying, bro. Like
no. But what I'm saying, you can't put it on the same table with 30 and 23. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, it's the same.
No, it's not.
No, let me explain why it's the same.
I understand.
So here's the thing, right? At 30 and 23, if you had decided to do that when you were 20, that girl was 13. Yeah. It's illegal. It's literally it's a crime. Yeah. However, at a certain point, it becomes okay, and that's why it's always.
So let's not use the word formula. No, I think we'll be safe there.
Yeah,
because someone is watching. It's not.
Which one? At what age?
2018 does not work.
Why not?
2018 works.
2018 is fine.
So how old is a 20-year-old guy supposed to? No. How old is a girl that a 20-year-old guy is supposed to do?
No. When you're 20,
it's
gonna watch it by high school in Bomira.
High school.
How do you know?
Wait. What I'm saying is good. Number one, okay, on a very functional level. An 18-year-old or 20-year-old guy. Changosiana, the only major experience difference right now is Bao. Honestly.
But
in terms of Brenja Zezo. No. In terms of Brenja Zezo, Vananosiana. Ango free chit asiri high school. Shit.
Which is why it works.
Are you saying 20-year-old guys should not date at all?
No, I'm okay.
How old are the girls that they should be dating?
Okay, I don't want to sound very but this is the truth of the matter. And Tara Chokwani, you need to have the reason why I'll date is to marry. And I didn't know that when I was a kid. But anyway, at 20, you've got no business wanting to marry. Like it's why. I mean, it's 20.
So you should.
It's 20.
It's an 18-year-old that you're dating.
No. It's 20. It's 20. I'm dating. you're having fun, have fun. Andika. Then wakura, kwane waskano wanenge wakura, the age group yao. Then maybe you've
So
got
at 20, you shouldn't be dating
No.
at all.
No, but who says that?
No,
Who says that at 18, I'm not looking to date so I can get married, right?
No.
Like, I don't have any interest in power and having
No.
whatever
This is the thing.
right?
This is the thing. What I'm saying, I'm speaking vis-a-vis the system that we're living in. And at 18, you're still in school.
Yes.
Yeah, you're in high school. And
Yes.
that thought of getting married, you haven't even idealized where your life is going.
Right.
What you're going to be doing. And you can't be thinking about getting married before you even expose yourself to the possibilities.
But what if I don't want possibility?
Wait. I'm still going. Remember, at that time as well, your life is really not in your hands.
Okay.
Normally, it's your parents who are... So that relationship already is constrained because the hand of the parent is still on you. Right? You're probably seeing this guy, what jamba jura or what jailbreaker, 2 hours, and it's done. And probably for 3 weeks, you don't see the guy. What do you think he's doing?
I wanna ask something, and I'll start with you, Jude. What's the biggest age gap you've ever had in a relationship?
How old are you?
Yes. All right, I'm not going to tell you whether it was upwards or downwards, but I think the biggest was 9.
How old
That
are
means
you?
it was upwards.
Oh, you're a criminal. But how old?
I'm old enough.
I want to do the formula for you.
I chose it behind the scenes.
Okay.
I chose it behind
So
the
what's
scenes.
the biggest age gap you've ever had?
6 years.
And yourself, Tari?
2 years, 2.5 years?
And Jude?
That's the same 9.
9.
Huh?
Okay.
It's a more for me.
I think
It's a moment.
I think the biggest age gap I've had is probably like 10, 11.
You're normal.
No, but
Like
at what
10,
age,
11.
right? So, like, 10, 11, so for example, if that's 31 and 20, how do you feel about that?
Okay, so this is the thing. I didn't declare whether it was upwards or downwards. Right?
Fair.
So when it's inverse, it's a different thing altogether, right? Because for a guy, if I get an older woman, what I'm looking at is different from when I get a younger woman. And it because when I any drama, I did like if I'm gonna get munezera around like my age and below, the honest truth is if I'm just like not serious about getting married, yeah, you're not on my phone, yeah, you're not texting me, yeah, blah blah blah. As much as we life. And you want someone experience a life, I know that no, you to know better shanda, to know better yeah, to know better busy. You're online and you're not.
So what did 31 and 20 over?
Yeah.
31 and 20. When the guy is 31,
Yeah.
it works.
And the girl's 20.
Yeah, it
No,
works.
but then she's going to be harassing you that you're not looking at my phone.
No.
That's what you're saying.
Remember, I said in my context because I'm not serious about kurora.
Oh.
Saka and skuda muna anoskuda achindi nega. But it's different when you're building towards something nemun wako. It's different. Because I said, number one, I wouldn't marry an older woman. But I dated an older... No, I wouldn't. I dated an older
Why
woman.
not?
No, you see,
because I experience
guys. Okay. Ukapinda mgarage memun. Munogona mine Jeep. Munogona mine Corolla. Andidika. Autore Corolla wenda umana pools. Andidika. Every car has got a specific purpose. 4x4 in the
Yeah.
I don't need this.
Okay, no.
So what I'm saying is, dating an older woman doesn't mean I will marry an older woman. And just like in Ijiji, I'm not serious about getting married. And because in it right now, this is my prime. I need to be making money and things like that. And I was like, so no scratch deal. But I'm not that, yeah, no, that's what I saw, yeah. Nah,
Okay, no. So
but what I'm saying,
so I have a question about that, right? Because you're saying you don't want someone that will nag, right? Is that not what you're going to get from a 21-year-old?
No. Okay.
If you are 30.
Perspective. Being nagged by Munorukuda Kurora is a different story by being naked by nemuno time pusher now.
No.
No, that's exactly what I said.
No, but by the time you even get to a point you're going to do that because muskana yana nega what was next and then and then one nega over regandi dangu kuna 50-year-old wangu asingandinega wokecha my feelings je watapesera uchirora because vangaustombo vapa chance
listen to this well and it all right I didn't want to use this word and then but
bishu
if I'm just gonna get a hole, and then you we won't go tamba na embassy, and you and did it anonate. Do you get it? And did not any more problems gonna area per side.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want that. But if you're going to invest more, because remember, it's 2031 and it Ruisa operating system young. And so you're bound to meet those problems because routers are OS yako. Urukumu guruma utaite zvauri kudai wewe. You see, I didn't want to get there.
I know how this video is gonna start.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Epstein. God damn.
Panama t-shirt.
I don't know about this t-shirt.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
No.
But because the conversation is actually going to go in that direction. But before we go there,
You see Jason holding his head in the
Jason is behind the camera like this, guys. But okay, so there was a thing that happened where Janet kissed one of her male dancers on stage, and the dancer was Janet Jackson. Sorry, Miss James. And the dancer was like 23 or something, and then like obviously people were like celebrating. Janet is that girl, and then some of the comments said, "But if this was a guy in that situation, you'd be called a creep."
Facts.
Is there a double standard in terms of age gaps, whether it's a man or a woman who's older, and the connotations of that?
Yes.
And I'll start with you, TJ.
100%.
Yeah.
100%, right? So the male being older and the female being younger, it's seen as being predatory. Even if, interestingly enough, like even if right? And even if the older own is respectful, is not manipulative, and so on, right? I think that narrative comes then when those situations are manipulative. But there's nothing to say that in a context where the female is older, it's not also manipulative, right? And where the guy being older is seen as predatory, the woman being older, like for her, it's like, oh, you know, you're winning, you got yourself a cute young thing.
Yeah.
And for him, it's like, oh, you know, you did so well.
Stella
You
got her group back.
Yeah, right. And then for the owner, it's like, oh, you know, you did so well, you got like an older woman or whatever. You know, so I 100% think that it's not at all treated the same.
Do you think so, Dennis?
Yeah, I think there's a double standard, but I think that double standard exists for a reason. I've never come across a guy who's like, I feel like I was taken advantage of by this person, this woman that I child who was older than I am. They always seem to celebrate that for the rest of their life. So I mean, like, what making that distinction, because what often happens in what we're describing here, right, is that there was a power dynamic that ended up being exploited, right? And what that usually turns out to be is she regrets that she did that because she, you know, as she got older, maybe realized, well, even if she wanted to do it at the time. I've never seen that happen with guys. So for me, it's like, why are we forcing people to not do things that they don't end up regretting anyway? Like, that's what you wanted to do, you achieved it, it went well, go on with your life.
Yeah.
But then is it because society has conditioned you in such a way that you don't feel like it's a thing that you should be questioning? So, for example, like when it comes to guys, I think I've met quite a few guys who lost their virginity to older women. And like, it's a badge of honor, but I don't know how much of it is because like, as guys, you can't go and then be like, yeah, I feel like I was taken advantage of because of like the connotation. Like just the culture of it is such that you should be proud. So even if you might not be, you like it's just
right. Which is also, to be honest, which is also a real thing, right? Because there's someone who, right, and it might not be, you know, the three of us sitting here, but there's someone honestly who get put into a corner by someone who's older and not want to be in that situation and not know how to react. and then just kind of go with it because it's there.
Yeah.
And then when they then bring it up, it's like, oh, shout out. So like they don't even though they might internally feel shameful that it happened, they then just kind of go there to be like, yeah, fuck it, I did that.
Yeah.
Right? Not knowing, understanding how damaging it was to them because it's like I wasn't ready to
Toxic
that.
masculinity.
Right?
I mean, like, what is that? Like, what is that? Like, I wasn't. Because have you met someone like that who's like, I wasn't ready to do that?
I have, right? Right. I've met someone who, when the first time they had sex, they weren't ready to have sex. They were just kind of like, whoa, I didn't really know how to react to
How
this
did it
situation.
affect them in the long term?
I don't know.
Oh.
That I don't know. Right? But like, it was an admission where just like the first time I had sex, I wasn't really, like, I just happened.
I think that's the world's 1%.
But I think there's like an agency that we shouldn't take away from people, right? Which is, I should be able to make the decisions that I want to make without you. If I'm an adult, right? We're not talking about a 17-year-old and 18-year-old. We're talking about a 23-year-old guy who's hooking up with, let's say, a 35-year-old woman.
Right.
If he decides that that's what he wants to do and it's something that he's not going to regret, then why are we telling him not to do that, right? It goes against everything else that we stand for when we say we want people to be able to do what they want with their private parts.
No, but with guys, no one does, is the point, right? Like, with guys, no one is going to tell the 23-year-old, don't date that 35-year-old woman, right? Yeah. But if it's a girl, right, that 23-year-old girl is going to be told, don't date older men.
But that's also because very often those women end up regretting it. And that's why that exists. And that's why it should exist. Because we've seen a trend, but not the other way around. No. So it's a double standard. Yes, I get it.
Is it that they don't regret it or they don't feel like they can say they regret it?
Yeah. No, a lot don't.
I don't think people. I haven't met
but to be honest, guys also don't really talk about their feelings and don't have those spaces to openly admit that, actually, I regret that this happened to me and I regret it and this is how I felt.
But also,
and the culture that men create is like, oh, you did that? Oh shit, shut up.
To be very honest, I think we also need to factor in the concept of for guys at times, you hook up with this lady, on to the next. But with women, probably they keep it in their minds. But we're saying
it's not a hookup. We're saying that you date this.
No, but still you dated, and you get to do whatever. But I'm saying it's not an event. I mean, yes, here and there you can brag about it, but we don't think about it. Like, honestly, Nini, if you ask me about it, I'm just like,
I'm not going to.
No, not Kujiri. But I'm saying, I can't really pinpoint Kujiri. It's really not. Alright, maybe it's like you said, it was socialized to just say, and then so to then try to make an issue out of it, I think
So the thing is, we all know, going back to. There was a comment that Jude made. We all know about R. Kelly, right?
Right.
Which is relatively inarguable. But then, have you guys... I hope you have, because I sent you a link to it, about Philip Schofield.
Right.
So for context for you guys, he was a co-host on The Breakfast, what's it called? On a UK show called This Morning.
Right.
And he had his wife. They were married for like 20-odd years. And then he cheated on his wife with a much younger man. And he was then accused of grooming the man, considering that he had first met the man when the guy was 15 years old. And they kept contact over Twitter. And then the young man got a job on the same show on This Morning. And then now the story is alleged and not confirmed that, people are looking at it as like he groomed this person. So my first question from that is, what do you understand grooming to be, Jude?
All right, so grooming is shaping something to your standard.
Right.
Right? I want a car that does this. I'll design it in a way to have those capabilities and understand what I want, right? So when it comes to the human context, when I'm grooming someone, I'm teaching them or instilling my values, standards, just like you would groom your child, right? You want them to grow up a certain way. You've got an end picture in mind for them, who you want them to be, and you catch them young.
So in that context, the wife can also groom the husband, right? To their standards as well, right?
No, but then Okay.
Nope.
No. Listen to this.
I see what you did.
This is what I'm saying. Who has got the responsibility to set the standards? Who's got the privilege, actually? Because remember, there's a power dynamic between men and women, right? So obviously, half the time, in normal setups, it's the guy setting the standard for their family.
But isn't
right?
it
Wait.
normal?
No, it is normal.
And
Because
isn't it in specific?
as human beings, on the very basic level, there's men and there's...
Before we go, so before we touch on that, can I just come back to grooming?
I've never been at a loss for words.
Oh, you.
No, yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. I mean, I'm just gonna tell it like it is.
But it's
That's
correct.
good.
Yeah.
Politically
Correct.
incorrect.
Yeah.
So, in the context of male-female relationships, right? I think for what Jude is saying, grooming may not necessarily be the word, right? Because I think generally there's a negative connotation that comes with the idea of grooming,
Right.
and I think that is taking someone who is in a formative period in their life and influencing that formation to suit a particular goal or narrative.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So it's like what's his name? Like Jeffrey Epstein, and I can't remember the other hand, right? And they were grooming young girls to become escorts, prostitutes, sex trafficking, etc. Right. So saying a young girl being like, "Yo, look, I know you're 15, but I can buy you these Gucci bags if you sleep with this 50-year-old man." Right. Similarly, it's the Bali's parking at UZ and trying to pick up 19-year-olds, right? Saying, "Hey, I'm going to give you all this flashy stuff if you do this for me."
Right. Like I agree, because I think you're both having the same definition, but then I think, and I'll start with you, Tari, do you think there's an age limit to grooming?
Yes. So, starting really young, so formative years, right? So maybe even from like 10. And I would say 20, maybe 20, 21. Because at least, so, and depending on when that actually starts, right? So if someone's trying to groom someone who is possibly 20, it's possibly a lot harder to someone who's 10. At least at 20, I've got my own opinions. I have my own experiences. I also have my own worldview. So it's a lot harder to influence me than someone who is 10. And especially if it's someone older, right? You revere that person, you respect them, and what that person who's older is telling you is somewhat, I wouldn't say law, but I will respect what they're saying because they're older. And I will believe what they're saying because they've got more experience, they know better than me, they're an adult, etc., etc. All of those things I am taking into account as I am growing.
Like, yes and no, because I definitely agree that when you're in your formative years, you're more susceptible to influence. But then, like, there's, in my perspective, there's also like a personality thing. Like, you could be 40 and be susceptible to outside influence. Like, maybe because you just aren't, maybe you're insecure in a certain aspect, or like there's certain things that you're just gonna be influenced into, because not all the hoes who've got pimps are starting from when they were 10. Like, some of them started from when they were 30, but because of that power dynamic and the influence and the insecurities and everything comes into play, and like outside of
But I think
your age.
so I think at a certain age, like what you're speaking about, then becomes manipulation, because you've formed opinions, right? So I was gonna ask Tari to say that, do you not think that there's girls who are 20 at UZ who are being groomed? Right, because I think in terms of age, right, honestly, I'd probably say like 25, right? So like you've really been through quite a bit of life, I would say at 25, right? Like you've gone through some stuff, right? And so by then, maybe they may not be fully formed, but there's just certain things you will do, certain things that you won't, right? At 20, honestly, you're still trying to figure that out, because if someone comes right now and says, "Andi Kariba," because you've never been to Kariba, you're just going to fucking go, right? Not knowing what that's going to look like, not knowing what's going to happen, etc. But by 25, maybe you've already been, or you've traveled somewhere else, had a bad experience, and you know not to go to Kariba with a stranger, right? If you're then 40 and still going to Kariba with a stranger, bro, like, it is what it is. Like, yeah, like, and I think at that point, because like at 40, again, like you've grown, you've formed your opinions, you know what you're thinking, you know what you're doing. And then it just becomes, like you're saying, depending on the individual, it then becomes manipulation where someone sees something they can take advantage of, and then they do that.
Do you guys think like a 26-year-old could be groomed by like a 60-year-old?
Yes.
A what?
I
A
think so.
26-year-old
Yeah.
could be groomed by a 60-year-old.
If that 6-year-old had money, yes.
So 25 is not the number.
Yeah.
There's no, I think there's no number.
However,
There's no number.
There's no number.
there's a number.
There's a number.
What is the
Formula.
number?
Formula.
I don't believe that.
I think
So sorry, my actual point. I do believe in the formula, but my actual point was going to be, what grooming takes is a power dynamic more than it is an age.
exactly.
It's that I can influence you to do things.
The power to
because-
influence, full stop.
Yeah, it's the power to influence, meaning that it can actually happen at whatever age.
Right.
I think a lot of what you would consider grooming could happen between a 22-year-old and a 20-year-old.
So when does someone become or stop being a predator?
When you start listening to the formula, bro.
Because like in what I'm hearing, in most situations you have the capacity to groom. Like if you are okay, so say for example, Jude, you are a 40-year-old guy. You are accomplished, you are successful, you are wealthy. Who do you date?
All right. At 40, I think I've got a very open bracket there, because I think from 25.
But then if you're dating a 25-year-old,
wait, 25 to maybe 35.
even then, let's say if you're dating a 25-year-old, even let's say a 30-year-old, and they haven't got the opportunity to be as accomplished as you in work-wise, like professionally, or like money-wise, or whatever the case may be. Is that still not a dynamic in which you'd be looked at as grooming someone, or as like
Obviously,
because you have
dynamics
more
will
power.
always exist. I mean, because the question that you'd asked about the predator, it's defined according to who? Whose standard are we using? Because
Well, that's what we're
what's a
trying-
predator to you
Yeah.
may not be a predator to me.
That's what R. Kelly
Because
would
if
say.
I'm a 40-year-old, if I'm a 40-year-old and I marry an 18-year-old, some
Right.
people may say, predator. But if you look at the issue, because it's a case by case. It's a case by case. Probably. Wait.
No, so you're 40, you're dating an 18-year-old. When did you start dating?
No, okay. I start dating an 18-year-old. All right. Let me correct that. Let me correct that. At 40, I start dating an 18-year-old. And did
Okay.
18-year-old. Apana problem, Baba. According to me.
She's still in school.
That's you, according to you.
No, she's still in school.
Yeah.
She's still in high school.
She's still in school, but she's
No,
legal.
she could be.
But she's legal.
That's the thing.
But she's legal. Alright, saka mna repeater. Ari 25 akanonyora O level mates achaite. No, she's still in school. No. So
Okay,
she's
fine.
legal. What I'm saying is that she's legal. And did
No, I hate it.
Saka, according to me, apana problem. And did and if she willingly allows me to influence whatever in her life, then it's both.
So
So it's a question of willingness.
Yeah.
And it's a question of willingness. But the biggest challenge lies now with the guardians and parents of these people.
Right.
To protect them against being exposed to never now.
Hold on, bro. Wait, hold on. Hold on, wait. Because if there's influence of parents and guardians on this person, and what the fuck at 40 are you doing with that person? First of all.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
First of all.
No,
Yeah,
Bro.
Jack. No, hold on. Right.
that's
But-
exactly what I'm saying. Kuti, if you're gonna then define it as kuti shinu shisingaite, as a parent to an 18-year-old child, you need to make sure you put in place measures ekuti ava expose vana kune zvinhu zvakadaro. But ukatona yato situation yekuti I'm 40 and I already have an 18-year-old it means that thing was not there.
But do you know what, like the concept of a predator, right? Even in its name, it almost feels like once you need to protect something from someone, you're protecting them from predators.
Yeah.
But this is what I'm saying. That according to who, right? Because there are different values. Okay, let me be the African that I might do want to get to that now. But let's
That's how we were there already.
let's look at it this way. And it not to America, these are young. Madzisekuru Edo. If you go back in history, you would find marriages would start at 15, 16, everything. And it was normal. It was acceptable. But if I'm going to marry a 15-year-old today, people are going to be like, hey, early child marriage and everything. According to who? According to whose standard, right? So this is what I'm saying. We've moved from our traditional standard to this assumed. Wait, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not even commenting.
I'm asking because I want to understand. Were these Manzisekurus like 40? Were they like in
it could be any age. It could be any age. It could be any age because I'm mind Babarika. It could be any age. So the thing is, the reason why Jakutage no Chikisa now is because we've got a lot of things that are different from then. You can measure say, no, she's still Form 3, she's still what. Because a girl child from the get-go was just being groomed even by the parents to become a housewife. And the activities I to swap among society was actively grooming them. Do you get it? So to then put one predator up, it's very difficult because it's a culture issue.
But my issue with that, right, is how do you, just because it's what happened doesn't necessarily mean that is correct.
It doesn't mean it's wrong. No, wait. It doesn't mean it's wrong.
It doesn't mean it's wrong.
It doesn't mean it's wrong either.
Right.
Because right now, if you're going to talk, let's look at it. There's the Reed Dance Festival, whatever, coming. Eswatini Kingdom, right? Yeah. It's end of August. I'm actually trying to go there, you know. Yeah, that's how invested I am. So this is the thing. Anti uka won festival iwewe because you grew up a certain way. You're no longer that traditional. You're gonna say what? Women, the young girls walking without anything on their covering their breasts and things like that. This is abuse. But on the king, I'll drop your you're like, to you, it's abuse according to your standard, but it's not their standard. So this is what I'm saying. Yeah. It's different.
Yeah. So even on that, even to remove it from Zim and Shona culture, right? An interesting one is Islamic Iranian women, right? There's a strong movement where they are pro-Islam and pro-Islamic, even Sharia law, right? And they're like, fuck out of here with your Western liberal women, this women, that whatever. Yeah. Like, we like our lives as Islamic women, right? Because there are certain benefits and things that we gain from our culture. And who are you to tell us that our culture is wrong? And it's also titori bo nesha tiri kuita.
Because when you want to say yardstick again,
and the thing is, and again, right? It's not that these women's husbands are telling them. These women created this movement by themselves to be like, listen, we need to protect culture yedu and because we strong because it's their beliefs, right? We strongly believe that our culture is right because we grew up in this culture and we turned out good, right? And we want our daughters to grow up the same. I
think there might be two different conversations, kind of here. One of them is the idea of, which I agree with what you're saying, which is that no one should be coming into your society and telling you how you should do your thing. Yeah. So if you're going to Qatar for the World Cup and they don't allow something,
you do what you do.
Then that's what they've decided, and that's cool, right? But I think what these conversations are more about, which I think is a different conversation, is how we curate our societies, right? Because, for instance, talking about like LGBTQ,
right?
In most places, the society votes on what they want as a society, right? And I was reading something about that Ugandan, what's happening in Uganda right now. Yeah. And like 95% of the people are voting in favor of it, right? And it begs the question, like, obviously no one should be coming into a society where 95% of the people agree on doing things one way and telling them that by force you must do them a different way.
Right.
But should we also be able to have a conversation in a space like this, for example, where we're like, if we were to take it to a vote today, Zimbabwe might be 80, 85, 90% as well.
Yeah.
But how about like this conversation, just about what's the right thing?
Yeah.
And that's also how people get influenced, right?
Yeah.
Like now, so I think those are two different things. I do agree that we shouldn't be influencing other people, but I think it should be
so I think on the idea of where it becomes, like, to bring it back into your point, right? To bring it back to like where it becomes predatory, I think it's when you start trying to bend someone to your will.
Yeah.
Right, so it's no longer, because that's what a predator does, right? Like, it's an attack, and I'm forcing you to do what I want.
It's not consensual.
Right? It's not consensual. It's no longer an exchange.
That to me is very like simplistic. Why? Because everyone knows that to be a predatory situation. So, for example, it's to me on par with, say, like the rape conversation, where like if you hold someone at gunpoint and you force them, everyone knows that to be rape. But then like there's a certain line where people then get like, oh, was this consensual? Was it not? Was this what? Was it not? And that's the line we want to talk about when it comes to grooming. And like, if you are forcibly manipulating anyone in any situation, I don't think we can disagree that that's grooming.
Right.
But
So,
that's why we're asking the question about like, is there an age limit? And also, does it stop at statutory age in terms of like, okay, now it's grooming, now it's not, now you're a predator, now you're not. Like manipulation, I think, doesn't have that age limit.
When Jude was talking earlier, I agreed with the first part of his statement, and then I tried to round it back to what I believe, but he was in a different direction. But like, maybe let me build on the first part of it, right? Where you were talking about the concept of grooming, and I'm not talking about it in the way that Twitter people talk about it. Right. I'm talking about the idea of trying to make your partner a better person.
Yeah.
For you.
For you or in general. I think that happens
for you.
Well, yeah. Firstly, because if you're a better person, that's good for me. But I do think that there is a certain amount of grooming in the traditional sense of the word that happens male to
Both
female
ways,
and female to male.
Yeah.
So
100%.
if it's you don't like your husband coming home at 4 a.m,
Yeah.
you're like, bro,
Stop it.
like, stop it. The first time there's some resistance, and then after a while, it's like, you came at 4 and I wasn't at home.
You will silent treatment.
You know what I mean?
into
Or silent
obedience.
treatment you into for a week or whatever.
Guys,
On a new Masada.
silent treatment must not know my name. Don't try
I
that.
know. I might even go here. No way that drum.
But
If that's how you want to work.
but it's,
Don't go down that road, bro.
Maybe
It
at
will not
that
end
meeting-
over here.
Eh, no, you about me, no,
No. Bamnini unaenda kwa bamnini. Unaenda kwa bamnini.
But then, like,
but essentially, that's a process that will always happen.
Right.
And then to add on to what TJ was saying about the thing with it is, if I'm 40 years old and I am talking to a 20-year or an 18, 19, 20-year-old, how much power do I have to convince you? Because this happens even when you're the same age, right? So me and my girlfriend could both be 30. And I'll be like, yo, bro, like, I really don't like how much you share on the internet.
Right.
It makes me uncomfortable.
Right.
And she might stop doing that and doing it less, right? And that might be considered like influencing someone into a behavior. Maybe that they don't even want. But that's also a standard that I've set for myself. So if you don't want to do that, then you get shocked. And maybe you like me more than you like posting on the internet, so you'll stay and not post, right? But if I am 40 and you're 18, and I tell you I want you to do a certain thing, and you don't feel like you have the choice to not do that thing, or to leave even sometimes because maybe of whatever other kind of abuse is happening, then that becomes predatory.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think so. When you don't have a choice, I think we can agree on that.
That is.
But I'm saying there are situations where, okay, let me just be drastic about this. Ukaenda kunana kumusha. They're 18-year-old girls who are no longer in school. And kware abrotarisa kurorwa. And that in agapinam situation yakadaro yokuti akutotsvaga munaromo aroda kumurora. And then vari kuwirirana kuti it can't be abuse. But pane mwoyo kuti power dynamic ore kuti ndine mari ndiri kunoku or ndine influence, maybe a politician and then what out into that chakati. Yeah, now asisina choice because akutya kuti aure ndikamurambira zvinozodai. That's a different story. But as long as there's a choice,
So like societally speaking, we have like statutory ages, and then we have like ages in our minds in terms of what's appropriate and what's not.
Right.
Like we know what's legal and what's illegal, but then what's appropriate and what's not appropriate.
Right.
So I'll start with you, Tari. What age do you think most things are appropriate from? Like say an age gap or whatever you decide. What age do you think that becomes appropriate? Like, is it at the statutory age? Is it at the 16? Is it at the 18? Is it a different age in your mind?
I think between 18 and 21, I think there's a lot of growing that you need to do. There's a lot of experience. There's a lot of experience that you go through. There's a lot of forming of opinions and thoughts, etc., that I think you're better able, I think, or better equipped to make decisions for your life and about relationships and everything else than when you are 16. And I think of myself at 16 versus maybe 18. Very different in what those 2 years were. And yeah, I honestly couldn't imagine like dating someone or drinking or when I was that age. Versus, and even just the choices that you then make, when you've had those added 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is. So yeah, at least for me, like that's kind of where that
like 18 to 21.
18 to 21.
And yourself, Dennis?
The formula.
No, that's outside of the formula. Yeah. Because it's not like in terms of appropriateness when you're dating a 40-year-old or appropriateness when you're dating a 30-year-old. Yeah. It's more so that at what age do you think that people can make whatever decision they want to make?
I don't think people ever get to the point where they can make whatever decision they want to make because you always have like an external, like an environment that you operate around, right? And like we were talking about consent earlier. Right. When people talk about consent from like the legal, and I've forgotten a lot of this, but there are things that you need to have contractual capacity, right? And some of those things you can't be drunk to have contractual capacity. You can't have a mental whatever, right? So I don't think it becomes about a specific age, but about actually having the contractual capacity. And I think in the conversation about age, that's about how much power you have in the dynamic of the relationship that you're in. Right. So if you are at someone's house and you're 25 years old, but you don't have the option of going back to your house. You don't have, you don't have another way to put a meal on your table. If you decide that I'm going to stay in this relationship because then you don't have contractual capacity, right? So that power dynamic still exists. So for me.
But I think there's contractual capacity there. Because you were aware of my options, I love my sons.
100%, but also still Nduda Saz.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like we can't make decisions based off of people who are under duress. Because this conversation is about you could go right now and get the 19-year-old who's in the worst situation and make them do whatever you want. But is it the right thing to do?
So I'm pivoting a little bit, but I'll come back. Al Pacino is 82, and his girlfriend is 29, and they recently had a baby. Well, they recently had a child. And I'm interested, because it's not a baby anymore. Jason is at the back like,
thank God.
But like, they recently had a child. And my question from that was, is there a point at which like certain age gaps become a disservice to like your kids? So for example, if you're 82 and you're having a child and you're probably not going to see that kid past high school. Like, is that like, should that be allowed?
I mean, at a human level, you just need to be considerate. I mean, honestly, because you're depriving them of having a father, experiencing life with a dad.
Bro,
but there's money on the table.
No.
That's what I was.
This
That's
is
the
what,
next.
this is what I'm saying. I'm saying, Iwewe, you can do whatever you want to do, but I'm saying just about
But
the
that
next
isn't
generation.
fair.
It's not fair on the child. For you, for your purposes, for the mother, but for the child, they're not going to be having stories about their dad to talk about.
But then
Al Pacino, do you think you have more stories to tell about your dad than
No,
Al
but
Pacino's kids?
no. But what I'm saying is you're going to talk about what you heard about him, not your experiences.
personal experience.
Yeah. So that's different.
But then is it different to, because Dennis alluded to it just now, does it matter that there's money on the, this is Al Pacino.
Yes.
Does it matter that there's money on the table? So for example, even if I'm not going to see my kids past high school, their life and their children's life is set. And is that different from Sekuru Kumusha, who is 82 and having a kid?
No. It's not, because
It's not, because there are certain advantages. There are certain advantages that the woman wanted.
Yeah.
In order to have a child,
Yeah.
there, whatever she wanted,
context, right?
it wasn't money for her,
listen.
but whatever it was.
Yeah, no, honestly. And no, and the
It's
thing
different.
is...
No,
No,
it's not.
guys, as not Siana.
As not saying that we are not sad.
No, because what the or even Papa's story, and he's got it's really cool, and he's got like you have someone who's 60 something, and he's got I know guys are 16, 15, and story go and Hannah Shakawana, guys,
Crazy according to me.
Yeah.
I think
Crazy according
but
to this
really
kid who's about
it's just
to grow
cultural
up in
context,
abject poverty.
Bro.
Right? Like, here's the thing.
bro.
No. Here's,
But we don't know what Sekuru
What is
Kumusha
You see, this is the thing.
Even
What
when
is
I
poverty?
first met
Because
China,
as long as she's happy, because you're not going to Garamunom's mansion and everything, but you without happiness, they will call you poor. They'll say this is poverty.
you are lying.
No, I'm
They're
telling
not
you.
coming and saying that you're poor when there's food in your cabin.
No. Guys, let me be very honest with you. We are talking from a very privileged point of view. And anogara kumusha kuone. Kune munhu anokudza kuti inini kango as long as ndine munhu adati mwana wangu chigara tese. Bo. And even because you want Wi-Fi subscription, because you want Netflix, because you want that's why you consider money. To them, money is the last thing. They'll tell you, that's what they'll tell you.
Honestly,
But that's reality.
That's reality.
That is reality.
No,
But
no.
When
I'll
people
tell you a
are
story.
content.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story, right? So I think it was last week, right? And I was at our family farm or whatever, and to talk about my bags of feet, never craft, and did it.
We're never beating the zone with PF
Right?
allegation.
Never,
Bro.
ever, right? And I remember looking at these kids, and like two of them recently, like Vagarura, like recently, and literally Vanogara in one room, and did it. Like don't Magara Vanu Itachi, Ngombon farm, and did it. And these kids are so chuffed, bro. Like they're so happy and they're so content with what their life is.
No, but
My God,
guys,
there's 2 kids. I've got 9 because
Bro.
I'm not good. No, you see,
No. But there's something that matters here, which is context in the world that we live in today. Okay. You're significantly, according to any stats that you'll find, I don't have any I can quote, but I can. You're significantly less likely to end up poor if you get an education.
Right.
Those are the facts.
Right.
Regardless of the society, you're significantly less likely to end up poor if you come from a home where people are not poor, right? Because you're going to be afforded certain connect, whatever, all those things. But what we're describing now is a situation. No, of course.
No, it is because what are you calling education?
Going to school.
Going to school.
Yes.
But do you also agree that going to school is also perpetuating class struggles?
You're about to go down your Dr. Uma path, and we'll come back to that. We can circle back to where the school is not important or not. But the numbers that we have on the table right now is that if you don't go to school,
those numbers are collected by someone who supports that system.
No, the numbers are just the numbers.
No,
the numbers are just the numbers.
akatorwa kupi manumbers iwayo.
Because
Because pana akanotora here munhu akapiwa mombe nasekuru uko akazongoita mari nemombe dzake ikoko ari kugoko ikoko haana kumuvha kuenda kutaura.
When my Sekuru passed away, ndakapiwa mombe.
Iwewe. But what I'm saying, no, but what I'm saying is no.
So
My concept is anti more success, which means you're measuring success somehow. Munhu haana kuenda kuchikoro akangozvarwa sekuru akamusira mombe ikoko dzaakakura achidzizochengeta ikoko andika he multiplied ari kugoko ikoko never came to Harare. Who captured that stat?
No one captured that stat.
Thank you. So it's not included in the research.
No, of course not, because we took a sample which was probably, to your credit, taken in an urban area
privileged
somewhere.
place.
Or a privileged place somewhere.
So it's not fact.
However, Jude, Lekita Mombe Kumusha, it is success. Ungadewa sukara rejes. Ungadewa kanochanga Mombe. Okay, but your life is not based around having Mombe still.
No, but I was telling you. Can I tell you why? I was actually telling Chitines Ron and Rugumusha. I'm actually moving back. Why? I've seen it's absurd. This is an abstract show of success with hands in dream town and no, real money, real wealth is Kumusha. Have Mombe Kumusha, have real estate Kumusha, everything there. Not Kuno.
No,
guys, it's simple logic. Taga brainwash of the urban setting is whatever. Unotenga stand ya 75,000 ukari kre. Andika, but ukaenda kumusha kune stand yako ema. Funga ati ni 50,000, not 75. Unosumza chi, wait a project like I say, where's the wealth there?
I mean,
so I'm just coming to
communal land.
No, communal land yako ya ono vumiza ogara till the kingdom come, ya ono serious grow ako. And because now you want an ownership thing. So I'm going to an education which is what's teaching people greed. And which is what's teaching people greed because you find one person and 10 my mind. But one was enough to feed your family. But we don't want chunk.
Yeah. Which
is where the mindset is. Anyway, coming back to the thing. Statistics that are not representing that population. So they can't be fact. Because you're ignoring what are the statistics agenda.
Because where were the statistics going? Like what was
the bringing children into the world under certain circumstances makes a difference to their circumstances. Right. So let's stay to Kumusha and move away from Kucham. Kumusha kuna seguru wanu wanu garaba na seguru wanu garaba. Seguru wanu wanu Mombe 100, wangu seguru wanu Mombe 2. Seguru wanu Mombe 2 having 5 kids, ne seguru wanu Mombe 100 having 5 kids is bringing kids into the world into two different situations.
Yes.
Yeah.
And seguru wanu Mombe 100, vajatengeza Mombe 1 every term. And by the time they're going to get exposed like Jude, and then they're going to be talking about real estate is better in this place versus that place. That's an education and exposure that you have because of the other circumstances that you're now negating today.
Right.
However,
I'll also come back with the
don't
counter
have that
to
exposure. The other people who don't have that exposure and are living in whatever other space, they're genuinely more likely to be malnourished for starters. Because there's just not enough quality food in that space to sustain this little operation
So it's a case by case. Why I'm saying so. Inini kanandiri dine Mombe 2. This is as a guy from a guy. Dine Mombe 2. Ndunoona kuti family ya size andofana kuita ndi ish. Zvinhu zvangu zvinondikwandira ndi ish. Anditika. Munhu ane Mombe 100 anoita vakadzi 5. Oita vana 20. Munhu ane Mombe 2 oita mwana 1. Anditika. But going to the education bit that you mentioned, unoziva kuti iwe une Mombe 100 mukaita kunzi ane mwana 1 iwe une 1. Iwe une Mombe 100 ungoendesa mwana wako kuchikoro uyo mudzidzisa kushandisa Mombe idzodzo. And uyo becomes more wealthier than uyo wakaendesa kuchikoro. Do you know that?
I mean, yes and no, but at the point of digressing, because actually this has become a conversation about education and exposure, when the conversation is actually about age gaps. And
that's what we're talking about.
What a segue, by the way.
And I want to bring it back because I'm going to ask this question, and I want to start with you, Tari. Do you think there is a difference, or how can you distinguish between whether it's romance or whether it's grooming?
Yeah, that's a hard one. It's wild. Because grooming becomes nature. It's no longer romantic. It's not by nature.
It's
automatic.
It can be romance.
No, it can be.
But that's the thing. Like, how do you know unless you're really in it, or you see? Yeah, if you're really in it, or you actually like are privy to what is going on within that dynamic. Right, because who's to say? Because even if you take the Al Pacino example and his girlfriend, I don't know what her name is. She's 28. That honestly could be her grandfather. Mm-hmm. But who's to say that that's not love, or he didn't groom her from when she was young? Right,
or she's young now and he's grooming her because he's 62.
Because he's Al Pacino.
Because he's Al Pacino, and it's I don't know. I suppose I think it's maybe the dynamics of what happens within that within those relationships. So what is the, if we look at what the woman has to do, or what basically happens within that relationship. So is it if it's sexual acts, or if it's which most of it is, right? It's sexual, anything that is sexually related.
The more I think about this, the more I realize that Albertine is the victim in this.
Yeah. No, but see, so I wanted to come to that.
We're just a big one.
So I wanted to come to that, right? Because what's also not being discussed is that it can be predatory from the other perspective, right?
You know,
and in the course, right?
Why is that the name that came to all of us?
Yeah, no, honestly, right? It can happen the other way, where and it does happen, interestingly, right? Where there are young girls, even, right, who'll be like, Jack, but this Bali, he's just got divorced. Like, he might be in a bad place.
He's
got cheats.
vulnerable.
He's vulnerable. I can take advantage of that.
Prime real estate.
Yeah, right. Prime real estate, and it happens that way, right? I think that's something that, in the context of the conversation we've been having so far, that hasn't also been discussed. Where like that age gap can also happen bottom up, right? Not necessarily top down. In terms of, I suppose, where you draw the line, in my opinion, and even in what I'm saying, right? I think it comes down to intent. Right, so like, what is your intention, or what is your intention in one hour?
But then no one is gonna know.
Right?
Aiwa intention yako to is maybe the 82 kudzika maybe no but maybe we are not but I energy
but what if they actually fall in love? You can argue that.
Not I
No, seriously.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult to know if you're not privy to what that relationship looks like, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, who's to say that I can't date a 60-year-old man and we really have good conversation and we've got the same interests or whatever it is, versus him? How do you then tell that versus we're in love and he's grooming me for something, or I am going after him for his money?
And it's not the technical.
That 29-year-old is a predator.
Yeah,
that's the real predator.
Because there's a bunch of others.
I'll figure out how to incorporate it into the formula.
Do you know what? I think that, especially in distinguishing between like romance and grooming, it's very difficult. Like in my mind, if I was a guy, and like what I had said to you previously, like if I was an older, successful guy, I would feel stuck. Like I wouldn't know who I can date, because if I have a certain amount of influence or power or whatever, I'll think to myself that I have to date someone with in the same age bracket, with the same kind of success that I do, with the same. Otherwise, I'm at risk of being looked at as.
Do you know what?
Because ultimately, say for guys especially, from my perspective, the probability of being accused of grooming, if we get into a relationship and you have the power dynamic and whatever, and we break up, and I say, but actually time, I was groomed. People will believe me.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what the situation was in terms of being there, people will believe me.
But the other thing about, like, the grooming conversation is it's so inconsequential in real life. Like, yeah, okay, cool. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's actually how we treat it. It's like, oh, okay, you know, a couple of people will call you out for a couple of days. If it's not actually illegal, as in below 18, most times we talk about it for a couple of days and it goes on. So, like, that also has to be factored into, like, this is what people say, but that doesn't matter. I think what actually matters is what your intentions and what you were doing.
I think to support that, it's something that you said earlier, where it's like, I think it's about creating spaces or rooms where people are free to do what they smart, like to do what they want to do, right? In the context even of relationships. Because honestly, even for a young girl, right? If she wants to date an own who's older, because she wants to see what that be like, how is it different from dating an own who's 23 to see what that be like? Right? The only difference is that this one probably has his own cabin and a whole life and other children, right? Whereas this light is also still just trying to figure shit out, right? Similarly, to your point, Tash, right? Like if you're 40 and you honestly you're trying to figure out kind of where you fit in.
Yeah.
If she's 21 and she wants to go out, like check her out, bro. Right? Because how honestly, like how is it different?
Well, I guess like it's more so the interest in this topic came from the fact that like at what point do we actually draw the line as a society? Like we put so much we put so much weight on statutory ages, knowing very well that our perception goes beyond statutory age. And like to me it's not a thing that we discuss enough, but like it's one of those things where like when it happens you know it and you're like that ain't right.
You were asking about, and I don't think anyone answered, about if you're a 40-year-old accomplished person, how old is a person that you should date? Or what kind of person? What kind of person?
Anyone.
No, but it depends what you want.
Without being...
Let him finish.
without
Let him
being at
finish.
risk
Let him
of-
finish. Let him
You
finish.
guys are about to make your points my point, and a bunch of you getting cancelled. I don't. I do think that it should probably be in and around the minimum 28, because that's the formula, but maybe even slightly older, not even slightly, all the way up to your age, who's also accomplished in a certain, and like at 40, if you were to find, I know like, also because that's in and around my age, I know a lot of like really accomplished 30-year-olds who actually mostly struggle to find people to date because the 30-year-old guys who are accomplished or not feel like this is long for me. And then the older guys, you're now going into territories where either he's divorced, or he's got kids, or he's got this drama, or that drama.
But you
But
forget
there are a lot of
you
really
forget to look at the bright
accomplished
side.
30-year-olds.
Seasoned. And anyway, what the point, I agree with you.
Jude.
The divorced older guys, I'm saying,
Oh, right.
been there, done that, know how to do it better. But
No,
no, it's a joke.
Sure
It's a
to
joke.
not.
No.
Sure to not.
The real problem is, you and I are not married.
Season
We
t-shirt
cannot
coming soon.
create any sort of narrative that suggests that previously married people are better than we are. They're not. They're not. They have
But
baggage.
do you know which one?
They're baggage.
Can I tell you? Pakagara passes zikanzi tikuda munhu ane 5 years driving experience achiti license yakonofana. No. Anyway, it's fine. My point that I wanted to make was that a 40-year-old successful guy can marry anyone, because we are now trying to shape a picture of an ideal relationship when it's unique to everyone. And I think education edu created a lot of paranoia in us. No. I can build something now here. 25-year-old. The only challenge that we're having now with age, why we can't place age, is because 25-year-old women generation ya mai wangu, the 25-year-old women generation yangu vakasiyana zvisingaiti. Because unogona kutomienza 16-year-old my mother's generation is probably equivalent to a 24-year-old wamazuano. Saka that's where now it's getting a bit chaotic. But zvekunzi azoita difference yakati, it's a case by case. Because munhu wandiri kuda ndikumudira zvimwe zvinhu zvisiri ine success yangu. Because yokana kutoita success yako up uchita partner, it means
How is the relationship though?
So I think it's difficult to prescribe what someone should date, even like Dennis's age range, whatever, right? So out of all of you, I think I've got the smallest age gap. She said it's 2.5 years. And like most people that I've dated or interacted with were about my age, right? Because that's what I felt comfortable with, right? And of the men that were older, so let's say 5 years older, there was something about that dynamic that I didn't like for myself. And I was like, nah, right? Because he was more older, he was more experienced, and would want to lord that over me. And I was like, no, you can't tell me what I should do with my life just because you went through it and so your experience is low, right? Or because you have more money, that means that you have that power dynamic. And I didn't want that for myself, right? And I think also just because of what those dynamics could be, because I've also seen it, I was like, no, it's not.
yes, problematic.
So I'm going to play in my safe zone with someone who's also in, someone who I could, who's in and around my age, someone who I could also relate to, right? Like and I think maybe part of that vision is also like my parents' relationship, because they're also like the same age and year difference, 3 months, whatever. And how they built their life. And even just in my family, there aren't maybe like 1 or 2 couples where the age difference is really, really big. But everyone else kind of married someone who was their age mate.
So
And they
background
kind
is
of grew and
influenced,
built together. Right? So we're building together, it's on the same age. So now there's no real power dynamic. There's now just that respect of uyu ndiye murume wangu, so I will submit to whatever. But everything that we're doing, we're on par and we're doing the same thing. And even when it comes to age maturity or whatever, it really age does not equal maturity. Right? Someone can be 18 and be mature and maybe mature enough to also date a 40-year-old. So I think all of it's difficult to kind of prescribe and be like a 40-year-old man who is this should date whatever, but also depending on what he wants. Does he want marriage? Does he just still want to play around, whatever it is? Like it's different for each person.
I think actually that sums it up really well.
Yeah.
You did good, son.
Yeah.
But then
I'm not talking about formula.
no, I think the formula works.
I agree. Yeah.
In terms of like your minimum, your minimum.
Guys,
I think it works. But then as we round up, and I'll start with you, TJ.
And where are you today?
My last question is here. My last question is, do you think that there's a different perception in terms of age gaps or what's appropriate in a Zim context versus other jurisdictions?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so, yeah. I think the context, so the cultural context of it is massively important wherever you go, right? And that then ultimately builds and it ultimately builds the narrative around the whole thing, right? Like Emmanuel Macron, for example, I don't know, I think it's like 10, 12 years or something. Like his wife is way older, right? And then,
Teacher.
yeah, right. He was a high school teacher. He married a high school teacher, right? And I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever, bro. You're all in love, cool. If that happened here, hell will break loose, right? Complete bedroom. So I think definitely the cultural context is important, and I think that is also ultimately what dictates whether that age gap matters or not. Yeah.
Jude, I think I know what you're gonna say. But
I think because honestly, a culture will always influence who I am. At some point, even if the progressive salad, the African in me one day is gonna come out and say, and you married older, and she's telling you, what? Anyway, you are my kid. What are you telling me? So yeah, I mean, you need to pay attention to those dynamics to say, I'm African. That's my identity. And society yangu has always socialized me to think this way and do everything this way. She spoke about my background. They say they are almost in that age. So she grew up seeing that. So it automatically becomes the nature to see things that way. So because of that, culture in influence home life. So yeah, you need to stick around. Can I look at Zimbabwe? That's you know. Yeah. And
yourself, Tari, do you think there's a difference in perception of age gaps in Zim versus other jurisdictions?
I think so, yes, definitely. And I think that even in Zim, there are also differences. Right?
Yeah.
Based off the different cultures, different religions. And yeah. I mean, even what's it, Johannian Marangi? Those are the one, it's different in different cultures and different contexts, and I think at the end of it, you will just do what works for you and suits you.
Unless it's illegal, because
but illegal according to who?
No, according to the law.
No. You see, we need to go back.
Nothing happens to any of
But do you know what? This is where I want to come in.
There's no one snitching.
I forgot to jump in on that issue. But illegal, let's also remember what pane munhu akazoya nemalaws ake is tine society yedu kudhara akazongoti this is now law. Why? And which is why a lot of people would protest to say like I'm saying kumamisha ukandotora mabirth certificate emwana ucalculate age yamai wake neyayo unovhunduka but kunokume kuchiti no legal age is 18 ndikuita mega bwana re 18.
So I agree that there's a cultural context that exists, but I also think culture evolves, and we should never not allow it to evolve.
Yeah.
If and only if it's evolving for the right reasons.
And it evolves with the people.
And it evolves with the people, right?
Yeah.
And how that happens is also via people saying, this is a bit mad or this isn't mad, right? So when you talk about, like, for instance, the power dynamic that we're describing now and how that leads to people being taken advantage of by predators, how much more likely are you to be susceptible to that if you got married at 13? It's way more, right? And essentially, if we're removing the is it wrong or right, and like does it ever work out well, which it does evidently, I think we also need to say we need to be protecting people from being victims in the future, right? And that's what the majority of those laws are about, I feel. And I just think if you want to be able to draw that line, and you have to be able to do it, legally, it's always going to be a set number. It's going to be 18. There's never going to be a formula.
There's the laws. These laws.
No, but then that's
No, I'm just saying it's never going to be that.
There's never going to be a formula.
Kuchika lawyer kundibvumisa family gold more. It's never.
But at the same time, because we know that being a predator is not a crime. So you're mostly going to get away with it if that's the thing that you've decided to do.
Right.
So the calibration that has to come from yourself. Right? So if it's you by yourself, how are you determining that? And for me, I would say if you're ever putting someone in a position where they don't feel like they have the choice to have a difference in opinion or to not do what you want, then you're being a predator. Regardless of age, regardless of gender, also, I think you're still being a predator.
I mean, I hear that, but then at the same time, I also feel like you're not going to know you're being a predator all the time. So it's like, one, not everyone is intentional about being a predator. I sound like a predator, simply. But like not everyone is going to know that they're being a predator. Not everyone's going to feel like they're being a predator, like a lot of the time. And that's why in these precarious situations, it becomes a thing of after the fact. Yeah. When someone says, I feel like I was being groomed, or I felt like after they come out of the situation, and like you literally don't know whilst you're in it that, oh shit, I'm being a predator. But like,
third party. From what you're saying, I think predator is generating from a third party perspective. But even
within the parties, even second party, we are gonna go so.
No, but what I'm saying is last month and it taita. You can ask nazo, nazo, life yenda mberi. Po. Ukazoenda next year was talking about but mswe. Were you not happy?
So but that's what happened.
No, but if you look at, because even if you take the R. Kelly situation, right, like these girls, when they were, I think there was one girl at the end of that documentary, like she refused, like when her parents came together, she refused to leave. She was like, no, this is it. Like I'm okay with the situation.
And that's his point, right? Is that when she was in invited too, it was okay. When a third party then came and said, this is wrong.
That's like,
but then that's why.
No, it is. Don't get me wrong. It was wrong.
Yeah,
exactly.
We need to
so maybe there needs to be a party.
No. Okay. R. Kelly's
came out of it, right? They then even said like, no, actually, this was actually really wild. It was wrong.
No. This is what I'm saying.
So again, for me, the
R. Kelly is extreme. R. Kelly is extreme. Yes, I agree. And also, like you were saying, the power dynamics, but also abuse of the privilege that you have. Children left you in a trust, and then you start doing funny things and things like that. That's a different story. But I'm saying there are certain things that we now prescribe as abuses and wrong things that were cultural. Do you get my... Wait. I know you want to jump on that one. It's like there's now a progressive movement about if you can do it, you can do it. You can change diapers, the diaper, blah, 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 and all that nonsense, yes? Yes. People can change diapers, but I'll change when I want to, not when you tell me to. Wait, this is the cultural way of doing things, right? But when someone looks at it from a very progressive mindset, they'll say, this guy is oppressing the woman. Yeah, they've got equal rights. Yeah, she's also human and things like that. So it becomes problematic to define what a predator is when you're coming from a culture and a progressive mindset. Kanawaka within the cultural context and you're agreeing with the culture, live within the culture. But if you're married in the progressive and you exist in the progressive, yeah, you can do your jazz.
The thing is, I feel like yes and no. I feel like as society we progress and we know that there's certain things that are like right and wrong, and like there has to be a level of like at some point you do need a third party to come in and be like objectively. This is where we draw the line. Like with everyone, you're always gonna have your own perceptions and opinions
I get it,
and
but
whatever.
if
You're always gonna have your own perceptions and opinions and whatever. And there's always gonna be sliding scales and gray areas in a lot of the things that you go through. But there's a reason why we have statutory age. There's a reason why we have guidelines within to operate. Because at some point there has to be a Wamanya.
Yeah.
No, obviously. I know. I agree. I agree. But what I'm just saying is we need to be careful then what we use as a yardstick, as law, to what governs us.
From what I hear from you, I think like I largely agree that just because someone has decided that this is a law doesn't necessarily mean that it's right or that it goes with the culture that is being implemented in. A lot of the laws that we do are codified and based upon like European laws, even though they don't take into account our cultural issues and all that stuff. I agree with that completely. But with that, I'd like to say, first of all, thank you guys for being on the panel. I will tell you there's going to be a lot of what's it called, BTS. happening. I'd like to remind you, Panama T-shirts are here now. I'd also like to say shout out to Big Red Media who's behind the camera. Love y'all, appreciate y'all. They do all the Wisecrack and for real, like
and they do let loose with
Dennis. And they do let loose with Dennis as well, which would be in the description. Bro, Dr. Chaja, Anyway, we'll see you next week. Maybe. I don't know. Dennis is a celebrity now.
We'll see, yo. You have to talk to my assistant. But here's the thing, right? About the idea.
Big on me, the Holy Ghost, Son of the Most, Father, they don't